Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. I never imagined a simple warehouse job would destroy every sense of safety I ever had. My name is Ryan Cole. I'm 28. And until last year, I lived in Valley Creek, Alabama, a small town where nothing ever happens unless you count high school football or Saturday church cookouts. After Mom passed from liver failure in late 2021, I was drowning in medical debt and rent I couldn't keep up with. I needed money fast, and the only place hiring full-time with benefits was a Coca-Cola distribution warehouse on the edge of town, Southern Ridge Beverage Hub. I told myself it was temporary, a year at most, just long enough to survive. But life doesn't warn you when a job isn't just a job. When a place doesn't just employ you, it marks you. My first night was January 10th, 2022, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The warehouse stretched bigger than anything I'd ever been inside. Steel rafters, long aisles, and pallet stacks towering like cliffs. The air smelled like sweet syrup and wet cardboard, and the temperature was always a little too cold. My supervisor, Harold Knox, was a short, heavy man in his 60s with a limp and a voice rough from decades of smoking. He shook my hand on day one and grumbled, "Listen, kid, this place is boring as hell until it ain't. Night shift's different. Just keep your head down, do the job, and don't wander." I laughed, thinking he was warning me about pranks or hazing. He didn't laugh back. He added, almost as an afterthought, "And after 2:15 a.m., don't go anywhere near Cold Storage B. Doesn't matter what you hear, don't go." I thought he meant forklifts running or pallets falling. Nothing prepared me for the truth. After a couple of weeks, I got used to the rhythm of the night. Truck bays slamming, pallet jacks humming, barcode scanners beeping, forklift horns echoing through the aisles. My co-workers were a weird mix, single dads, parolees, people who just needed money. But one guy, Jared, worked closest to me most nights. Tall black dude, funny as hell, mid-30s, always joking about quitting but never did. He once nudged me with his elbow as we stacked crates. "Man, you ever get that feeling like this joint don't want to be empty? Like it don't like silence?" I shrugged. "I mean, it's creepy as hell when it gets quiet." He scoffed. "Brother, I ain't talking creepy. I'm talking like it's watching, like it breathes." I laughed him off. I shouldn't have. Even then, I'd hear tiny sounds behind me. The rattle of bottles, a pallet shifting when no one touched it, the hum of a cooler turning on, even though it wasn't scheduled to. I figured it was machinery, until the night I learned better. It was February 3rd, 2022, around 2:20 a.m. I was scanning crates in aisle 22, the closest aisle to Cold Storage B. That's when I heard it, a faint dragging sound, like heavy wood scraping across concrete. I clicked off my scanner. The sound stopped. I turned back to work. It returned louder. Drag, drag. My stomach tightened as I followed the noise. It stopped directly behind the heavy steel door of Cold Storage B. The door was cracked open, just an inch, and freezing mist leaked out. My breath fogged. Then something whispered from inside the dark room. "Ryan." I froze. It didn't sound like a person. It sounded too close, too layered, like multiple voices speaking my name across water. I backed away until I bumped into a pallet. And then the door to Cold Storage B slammed shut. Hard. I ran, didn't think, just ran, all the way across the warehouse and burst into the break room. Harold sat there drinking his vending machine coffee. When he saw my face, he knew. "You heard it, didn't you?" I nodded. He set his cup down with shaking hands. "Cold Storage B ain't empty. It hasn't been empty since Devin Hale died in there." A name I'd never heard before, but the fear in his eyes made it real. Harold explained it in pieces. Years ago, 2009, a worker named Devin Hale was crushed between two falling pallets in cold storage B. The official report said accidental equipment malfunction, but Devin had been telling co-workers for weeks that something in the warehouse followed him, whispered his name, and crawled behind the Coke pallets when the lights flickered. Everyone thought he was losing it from stress. The night he died, he told Harold, "It's closer tonight. If I don't make it out, don't let it take you too." Harold wiped his face with both hands while telling the story. After Devin died, the whispers started, the shadows, the moving pallets. Then another worker saw something in storage B and quit. After that, we stopped letting people go near it after 2 a.m. I said quietly, "So there's something in there?" Harold didn't blink. "No, that's the part people don't understand. It isn't in cold storage B. It just likes that room." I tried to ignore everything and focus on work, but fear is like a smell. Once it's on you, everything reacts. About a week later, I was alone in the break room again during my 3:30 break. The Coca-Cola vending machine sat against the wall, humming like usual. However, tonight something was wrong. Something thick dripped from the coin slot, landing on the tile. I stepped closer. It wasn't soda, it was black syrup, darker than Coke, like something burnt. Then the inside of the glass flickered, not the lights, the items inside. The Coke cans shook as if something pressed on them. Then, a handprint appeared from inside the glass. Long, thin fingers, too many joints, too slender to be human, and it dragged downward, leaving a smeared trail of syrup. The humming stopped. The break room lights shut off, and something whispered right behind me, inches from my ear. "I found you." I flew out of the room so fast I don't remember grabbing the door handle. From that night on, it followed me. The lights flickered wherever I stood. Crates shifted when I walked by. And every night at 2:15 a.m., I'd hear my name whispered from somewhere behind me. Jared noticed I wasn't myself. "Yo, Rye, you look like you seen a ghost, man." I muttered, "Something's in here." He stopped joking for once. "You saw it?" I swallowed. "A handprint." And I heard. He interrupted, shaking his head aggressively. "Don't talk about it. That's how it notices you faster. That's why I mind my damn business." That scared me worse. He wasn't confused. He wasn't doubtful. He was terrified. March 2nd, 2022, my last shift. I decided to quit. My mental health, my nerves, I couldn't take it anymore. All I had to do was return my badge and gather my gear from the floor. I moved through the aisles one last time, 4, 6, 8, 10, reviewing them like a goodbye tour. Then the overhead lights shut off one by one until the warehouse was pitch black. I turned on my phone flashlight. Immediately, I wished I hadn't. The Coke bottles near me, thousands of them, began vibrating violently. Plastic cracked, caps rattled. Then, they exploded, one after another, as if something was punching through them from inside. Liquid soaked the floor, syrup everywhere, the smell overwhelming. Then I saw movement behind the pallets, a shadow, tall, wrong, bent, unfolding itself. It stepped out. Its limbs were long and jagged, snapping like bones popping backward. Its torso twisted like melting plastic. Its face, if you could call it that, was just a smear of darkness, like a shadow peeled off a wall. The whisper came from everywhere and nowhere. "Don't leave." I ran. A pallet slammed down inches behind me, not falling, thrown. I dove under a conveyor belt and crawled through sticky syrup. The shadow slid after me like liquid darkness, too fast, too smooth. "Stay in the dark, stay with me." I exploded out from under the belt and sprinted toward the loading dock. Then Harold appeared out of nowhere, yelling, "Move, kid, don't look back!" He grabbed my arm, dragging me across the floor toward the exit. The creature didn't touch him, but the pallet beside Harold tipped over by itself, aiming to crush him. He barely jumped out of the way. We crashed through the warehouse doors and collapsed outside in the freezing air. Inside, silence. Not a single sound. Not a single light. Just waiting. Harold stared at the building with hollow eyes. It doesn't stay behind. If it notices you, it follows. I quit the next morning. Harold never returned. I heard he moved to Kentucky and refuses to sleep in dark rooms. Corporate replaced management, sealed off cold storage B, and blamed everything on structural hazards and electrical malfunctions. But it didn't stop. New workers didn't last long. People online made jokes about the haunted Coke warehouse. One night shift employee posted a video showing shadows crawling between pallets. He deleted it an hour later. I left Valley Creek 4 months ago. I work at a quiet gas station in Mississippi now, only daytime shifts. But last week, while stocking beverages, I noticed something. On aisle 4, behind the stacks of Coca-Cola, something moved in the reflection of the glass cooler door. Not a person, a shape, tall, bent, smooth as ink. When I snapped my head toward it, it was gone. But the smell remained. Burnt syrup. And yesterday, the gas station vending machine malfunctioned. A dark liquid leaked from the coin slot, and a handprint slid down the glass. The same one I saw a year ago. So I understand now. The warehouse didn't create it. The warehouse only hid it. It doesn't want a location. It wants a person. And once it whispers your name, it never stops. I still remember the night everything changed. Not because of explosions or screams. No, real horror never starts that loud. It starts slow, quiet, inside the ordinary. And nothing in my life was more ordinary than working the graveyard shift at the Horizon Bottling Coca-Cola facility in Redwood, Wyoming. A wind-killed town with one bar, one laundromat, and a whole lot of folks who gave up on their dreams before I was even born. My name is Caleb Mercer, 27, and I didn't take the night shift because I loved the job. I took it because when my little brother Isaiah died in a highway crash, I stopped knowing how to be around people. Laughing hurt, talking hurt, pity hurt the most. Machines don't ask questions. Conveyor belts don't tell you they're sorry. Silence became my shelter. The facility ran day and night. Day shift was noise, radios, gossip, forklift horns. Night shift was just 2 people, me, the line operator, and Supervisor Harold Roan, 62, wiry, silver-haired, moved like a man who lived inside the factory. Everyone in town said Harold had Coke instead of blood. He'd worked there since before the internet. But there was something about him that didn't fit the jokes. His eyes were always darting. He flinched at sudden noises. And every single night before we clocked in, he told me, "Don't go near mixing room B after midnight, not even to look. If you hear anything, ignore it." I thought it was old-timer warehouse superstition. Every factory has its rituals. But the longer I worked nights, the more his voice stopped sounding like tradition and started sounding like fear. It was a Monday, late January, snowstorm outside, wind trying to tear the roof off. The kind of night truckers refused to drive. Only the hum of machinery cut through the quiet. I was restocking empty bottles when the overhead lights flickered. Not off, just one long pulse. The floor vents hissed, and the main screen flashed. Automatic mix, formula red alpha automation, lockdown, mixing room B. Nothing unusual on paper. Coca-Cola tested formulas all the time. But the timestamp bothered me. 12:17 a.m. And I remembered Harold's rule. Nothing good gets mixed after midnight. I tried to ignore it until I heard a noise. A deep thud from mixing room B. Not mechanical, wet, flesh-like. Then a hard scrape across steel, slow, uneven, like fingernails dragging the inside of a metal coffin. I froze, then faint, almost swallowed by the hum of machines. "Hello?" A voice, muffled, liquid buried, like someone submerged was calling out. I staggered back so hard I knocked over a bin of seals. Harold appeared out of nowhere. I swear he teleported. His face was chalk white. "What did you hear?" I didn't answer. My brain was still trying to make sense of the sound. He grabbed my arm, harder than a man his age should be able to. "Whatever you think you heard, you didn't. Understand?" His voice wasn't angry. It was begging. That night he didn't go back to the office. He stayed on the floor, staring at mixing room B like something behind the door might break through. Every few minutes his lips moved, whispering prayers. That's when I realized Harold wasn't afraid of losing his job. He was afraid of what was in that room. The bottle that watched back 2 nights later. Everything went smooth until 1:04 a.m. The line was filling 20-ounce bottles, labels tight, carbonation perfect. Then something off passed my eye. One bottle didn't move like liquid. It swirled thickly inside the glass, heavy, slow, resisting centrifugal force. I picked it up, shook it lightly. Something shifted back. I lifted it to the overhead light, and my heart stopped. Something pale pressed against the inside of the bottle. A circular eye, lidless, wide, unblinking, staring at me. Not human. Too smooth, too large. The bottle vibrated in my palm, not from movement, from resistance, like something inside was pushing back. I dropped it. It shattered across the concrete. The Coke didn't splash like soda. It hit the ground in thick ropes, like tar, like muscle fibers, pulsing for half a second before going still. Harold sprinted over, saw the mess, and I swear his soul left his body. "Tell me you didn't look inside it." I didn't speak. My voice wouldn't work. He stepped closer, whisper shaken. "It feeds on attention. The more you look, the more it learns." "It? What is it?" Harold backed away like I had said something cursed. "Don't say that word. Don't give it identity. It doesn't need help growing." He walked off, but not before muttering, "It's remembering. It's remembering too much. The truth, or what was left of it." I didn't sleep the next day. I kept hearing the voice from the mixing room, kept seeing that eye. On Thursday night, I snapped. Break room, 12:46 a.m. I locked the door, standing between Harold and the exit. "Tell me what's happening," I said. "Because if you're scared, I should be scared." He dropped into a chair like his legs gave out. 21 years ago, Coca-Cola tried something new, a fermentation growth medium that develops flavor biologically. Real organic evolution of soda. Like yeast, like life. Silence hit like a hammer. The formula didn't stay liquid. It didn't stay food. My skin crawled. What did it turn into? He didn't blink. Something that responds to attention. It senses when it is being observed. Curiosity grows it. Recognition strengthens it. You're saying Coke became alive? His voice broke. Not alive, interested. I swallowed. You could quit. You could leave. His face crumpled with something deeper than fear. I tried. It came home with me. I felt every hair on my neck rise. It doesn't kill people right away, Caleb. It waits until they understand it exists, until they see it. Then, it keeps them. I asked who else knew. He laughed without joy. Everyone who knew is dead, missing, or pretending the problem doesn't exist. The breach Saturday. The night shift started normal. At 1:11 a.m., an alarm blared across the factory. Pressure critical. Mixing room B containment failure. Something inside the chamber slammed against the steel, heavy enough to shake the walls. Harold sprinted toward the door, shouting, "Caleb, don't come near it." But the door unlocked on its own, internal bolts blowing open from pressure. A blast of freezing vapor shot out. Then something spilled across the floor. Not liquid soda. A crawling, writhing mass of black syrup, thick as muscles, moving like a swarm of fused worms. Not random. Purposeful. Shapes pushed up through the surface. Fingers, jaws, mouth silently opening and closing in the shape of words, but no sound. Harold shoved me back. "Run! Don't let it learn your face!" I grabbed his arm. He tried to push me away. Something from the mass snapped around his ankle like a tentacle. He crashed to the floor, scraping his nails across concrete. "Caleb, go! Get out! I'm not leaving you!" His eyes filled with tears, not fear, resignation. It already knows me. The mass dragged him backward, slowly at first, then with impossible force. He screamed until the syrup swallowed him whole in one violent pull. The screaming stopped instantly. The emergency lights died. Only red strobes flashed, once per second, and with each flicker, the syrup mass inched closer, learning how to move faster. I ran, barefoot after losing a boot in the chaos across the conveyor system, through storage, into the loading bay. On every shelf, Coca-Cola bottles began vibrating, like something inside each one was waking up. I reached the parking lot, dove into my truck, and didn't breathe until Red Tail Highway was behind me. Aftermath, the horror that pretends not to exist. No sirens, no news article, no missing persons report for Harold. The facility was sealed by morning. Corporate contractors, hazmat suits, new locks. The sign at the gate read, "Equipment upgrade, do not enter." But when I pulled up to leave my resignation letter, a guard looked me dead in the face and said, "There is no record of you working here. Every document with my name on it, gone, like I was never there. It doesn't stay in the factory." For weeks I avoided Coke like poison. Then one night, in my apartment at 2:12 a.m., I heard scraping from the refrigerator. I opened it slowly. One Coke bottle, I don't know how it got there, sat on the top shelf. The inside of the glass was fogged, like something warm was breathing on it. Then something drifted into view inside the liquid. Not an eye this time. A human mouth pressing against the glass, silently forming words, over and over. "Caleb, my Caleb, found you." I dropped the bottle in the trash outside. But that night, scraping came again, behind my bedroom wall. The voice followed me out of the factory because I looked at it, because I understood it existed. It grows on curiosity. It feeds on attention. It follows recognition. And I gave it all three. Now I sleep with the lights on. I unplug every appliance. I never drink soda. But sometimes, late at night, I hear fizzing, faint like carbonation, from the closet, from under the bed, from just behind the drywall. It is patient. It is learning me. And if you're reading this, you need to listen to me carefully. If you ever buy a Coke bottle and it shakes, just a little, without being touched, or fogs from the inside, or something inside moves thicker than liquid, don't look at it. Don't acknowledge it. Don't think about it again. Because once you notice it, it notices you too. And once you understand it exists, it doesn't need a factory anymore. It only needs you. I never planned on staying in a small town for long. That's what I kept telling myself back then. Low rent, a quiet life, and a night shift job that paid just enough to survive. That was supposed to be temporary. But I swear on everything I still love. The fall of 2023 in Hollow Ridge, Wyoming changed the course of my mind forever. I don't touch soda anymore. I don't walk near vending machines. And I can't hear a bottle cap twist open without shaking. My name is Noah Keller, 27 years old back then, working nights at Fair Price Depot, kind of a mix between a supermarket and a home supply store. Not fancy, not corporate, just a small town chain that smelled like floor cleaner and old cardboard. Most nights were boring, just me, the buzzing AC, and the forever flickering fluorescent light near the dairy aisle that maintenance refused to fix. Back then, I didn't believe in curses or supernatural bullshit. I believed in clocking in, clocking out, and not thinking too hard about my life. But that Tuesday night, the night it all started, still replays in my head like a home video gone wrong. It was 11:56 p.m. I was counting coins for the self-checkout drawer when my manager, Tina McCormick, walked out of the office, jingling keys. She leaned over the counter and smirked at me. "Tina, you sure you're good alone tonight? Truck's coming in real late, 3 a.m. maybe." Me: "I'm good, I don't mind the quiet." Tina: "Yeah, you say that now. Wait till you hear the ice machine scream again." Me: "It doesn't scream, it just..." Tina: "Oh, shut up, you get scared of your own reflection." She laughed and tapped my shoulder before leaving. She was right. The store wasn't haunted, wasn't creepy, it was just old. I wish I could go back to when that was the worst of it. Shipments were normal on Tuesday nights. Snacks, canned goods, detergent, the usual. But that night, the manifest had a line I'd never seen. Coca-Cola Industries, special batch, CRD-X17, log delivery only, high priority, authorized storage only, CRD-X17, high priority soda? Really? I rolled my eyes. I had no idea yet what those letters meant. 2:47 a.m. The truck arrives. The semi backed into the loading dock. Bright red trailer. Coca-Cola logo. Looked normal until the driver stepped out. He wasn't the usual guy. Tall, skinny like he hadn't eaten in months. Dark circles under his eyes. Red uniform shirt, older than me. Faded logo from the 90s. He walked toward me, but his hands shook like he was freezing. "Driver, you the night clerk?" Me: "Yeah. Fair Price Depot, midnight crew. You okay, sir?" He swallowed hard. "Driver, you don't want to call me sir. I don't deserve that." I stood there confused, waiting for him to laugh like it was a joke. He didn't. Without another word, he opened the back of the trailer. The pallets weren't wrapped in clear plastic. They were wrapped in black industrial wrap. That was my first red flag. He backed away from them like they were radioactive. Me: "What's inside?" Driver: "Bottles." Me: "Okay, like soda?" Driver: "Don't call it that." His voice cracked, and he suddenly stepped close enough that I could smell sweat and something sour on his breath. Driver: "Don't open it. Don't store it in the light. Don't break the seals. Don't even peel the wrap." Me: "You're freaking me out, man." Driver: "Good." He shoved the clipboard into my chest, harder than he needed to, then jogged back to his truck. He slammed the door, started the engine, and peeled out of the lot so fast the tires squealed. I just stared at the trailer as it got smaller and smaller, thinking, what the hell just happened? Most people assume I should have just called the manager right then. And maybe they're right, but life isn't simple when you're broke. My rent was behind. My car payment was overdue. I needed that job. I wasn't gonna risk calling Tina over some weirdo driver. So I did what workers everywhere do. I scanned the freight in, clocked it as delivered, and pushed the pallet into the storage room. No questions asked. 3 weird things happened within the next 30 minutes. 1. The AC shut off by itself, even though the thermostat was locked. 2. Every bottle of soda on aisle 6 made a faint tapping sound, like carbonation rattling against glass. 3. The CCTV feed in the stockroom froze the second I pushed the pallet in. Not something obvious, not dramatic, just wrong. But my brain made excuses. Old building, glitchy tech, coincidences. I kept working. I wish I hadn't. Around 3:40 a.m., I heard a clink from the stockroom. I grabbed a box cutter and headed back there. One part of the black wrap had ripped open by itself, like something inside was pushing outward. Through the tear, I saw glass bottles, but not modern ones. These were vintage Coca-Cola bottles from the 70s. Thick glass, faded white text, and inside, the liquid wasn't brown. It was pure, glossy black. Not dark soda. Black like ink, black like oil, black like night. Curiosity got the best of me. I reached out and touched one bottle. It was ice cold. Then, I swear, it vibrated under my fingers. I pulled away instantly, me whispering, "Nope, nope, no thank you." As I backed away, I nudged a loose bottle on a nearby shelf. It fell. I reached for it, but it hit the floor before I could catch it. The crash never came. Instead, the bottle bounced like rubber. I froze. Glass doesn't bounce. Then it rolled to a stop and sat still, like it was waiting. My whole body started shaking. That's when a voice behind me spoke. "You shouldn't have touched that." I jumped, spinning around. It wasn't a monster. It wasn't a ghost. It was Paul, the janitor. Gray beard, tired eyes, always chewing sunflower seeds. The kind of guy who'd worked at the store forever. Me. "Jesus, Paul, don't do that. Thought you clocked out 2 hours ago." Paul. "Couldn't sleep. Figured I'd finish the trash run." Me. "These bottles are weird. You seen anything like—" He cut me off. Paul. "You need to wrap that pallet back up. Now." The way he looked at the bottles, not curious, not confused, scared me more than anything else that night. Me. "You know what this is?" Paul. "I know what it used to be." Me. "Used to be?" He stepped closer and lowered his voice. Paul. "Batch X-17. They stopped making it before I was born. They buried the whole project. And if it's here, someone's trying to hide a mistake again." My throat tightened. Me. "A mistake?" Paul. "A mistake that didn't stay dead the first time." Before I could ask anything else, the light above us flickered, then hummed, then turned deep red for less than a second, like blood, before snapping back to white. Paul took one step back. "Paul, we need to go, right now." And then we both froze, because every bottle on the pallet, hundreds of them, made the same faint noise, like knuckles knocking from the inside of the glass. My stomach dropped. Me. "What do we do?" Paul didn't look at me. He stared at the pallet like it was a coffin finally opening. Paul. "We wait, and we pray we're not too late." Paul's face told me everything. He wasn't guessing. He knew something bad was coming. The knocking inside the bottles got louder, faster, almost rhythmic, like dozens of tiny fists pounding glass. The sound crawled under my skin. I stepped back, whispering, "Me, this isn't real. It can't be." Paul put a hand on my shoulder. Steady, firm. "Paul, listen to me, kid. Whatever's in there, it wants out, and it only needs one bottle to break." My breathing got sharp. My throat tightened. Me. "What the hell is it? Some chemical thing? A parasite?" Paul. "Doesn't matter. It ain't human, and it ain't a drink." Before I could respond, a bottle on the edge of the pallet tilted by itself. Like something inside shifted its weight. It leaned outward. Then another, and another. A chain reaction, bottles leaning, clinking, lining up toward the torn corner like they were choosing the escape route. Paul cursed under his breath. Paul. "Son of a... Run. I need the fire doors locked." Me. "You're not doing this alone." Paul. "Lock the doors." His shout shook me back into motion. I stormed toward the main storage entrance and threw the deadbolt shut, hands shaking. Then the next one. Then the one by the dairy cooler. Metal slamming, locks clicking, one after another. By the time I reached the break room exit, the knocking noise had turned into a low rumble, like boiling liquid trapped in glass. When I sprinted back to the stock room, Paul was pushing a heavy cart against the pallet, trying to pin the bottles in. Me. "Let's just call someone. Police, fire, corporate. I don't care." Paul. "No agency touches this. Anybody who reports it vanishes." Me. "You sound insane." Paul. "I sound experienced." I blinked. My chest tightened. Me. "You've seen this before, haven't you?" The answer was in his eyes. He leaned back against the cart, sweating, but still standing. His voice got low, raw. Paul. "My uncle worked at a Coca-Cola facility in '89. Midnight Bottling Division, Kansas City. He told my dad that they were testing a new formula, something not made from flavor, but from growth." Me. "Growth? Like GMO?" Paul. Not that kind of growth. Something alive. Something that reacts to light and carbon like fuel. He swallowed hard. Paul. Company acted like it was just a new version of Coke until workers started getting sick, hearing voices, seeing things in reflections that weren't there. I felt my legs weaken. Me. What happened to your uncle? Paul's jaw clenched. Paul. He came home one night, different. He kept asking for cola. Couldn't stop drinking it. He said he was thirsty beyond human. I put a hand over my mouth. Me. Did he die? Paul. Worse. Before he could explain more, a bottle cracked. Not shattered, cracked. A thin line split down the glass, and thick black liquid began dripping out slowly. Except, it didn't drip down. It dripped sideways, crawling toward the edge like a living substance seeking gravity of its own choosing. Paul yanked me away. Paul, don't let it touch you. Don't breathe near it. If it gets in your blood or lungs, you're done. I backed toward the wall, shaking. Me. We need to leave. Now. Paul. Doors locked from outside after midnight. Only scanner card opens it. Manager has the only one. My heart dropped. We were trapped. And more bottles began to crack. Black liquid pushed through the glass at multiple points, moving toward each other, merging, growing. I grabbed the emergency phone on the wall and dialed 911. No ring, just static. Then a voice through the static whispered, "Hollow Ridge doesn't need saving." I hung up so fast I dropped the phone. We heard it happen before we saw it. Caps flying off bottles out on the sales floor. Hundreds of them. The air got thick, humid, and sickeningly sweet like rotting fruit drenched in syrup. Then the speakers on the ceiling clicked on. Distorted, broken audio began playing. An old Coca-Cola slogan, slowed to a warped, demonic crawl. Paul whispered, "It's feeding off the power." The buzzing fluorescent lights flickered deep red, then back to white, then red again. Every aisle light strobed in sequence toward the back of the store, like it was leading something, somewhere. And then came the whisper. Not from speakers, not from phones, from the bottles themselves. Hundreds of voices layered together, speaking from carbonated throats. "Drink me." My pulse pounded in my head. Me. They're calling to someone. Paul. They're calling to everyone. The black liquid on the floor began stretching, like a shadow melting across tile. It slithered toward the door, toward the store, like it had a destination. Paul grabbed a roll of industrial absorbent pads and threw them in the liquid's path. They dissolved on contact. Smoke rose from the chemical burn. Me. Jesus Christ. How do you stop something like that? Paul. You don't stop it. You contain it. Me. What the hell does that mean? Paul. You trap it where it can't find a host. A host. The word hit me like a kick to the chest. Me. You mean it needs a person? Paul nodded once, slowly, like the truth weighed too much to say out loud. Paul. It doesn't want to escape this place. It wants to live. The glass bottles on the pallet started tipping over, all in the same direction, arranging themselves. One by one, they rolled into position, forming a curved line, then another line beside it, and another. The shape was unmistakable, a spine. The bottles aligned into the shape of vertebrae, ribs, limbs, assembling something human-sized. Then the liquid crawled toward the formation. Merging, molding, shaping, a figure began forming. Half liquid, half glass, growing taller with every bottle that joined the body. The head formed last, bottles cracking in sequence to pour black liquid into the skull. When its eyes opened, there were no pupils, just polished black spheres reflecting us like mirrors. Paul reached blindly for the nearest heavy object, a steel mop wringer. But when the creature turned its head, it spoke with hundreds of trapped carbonation voices. Thirsty. My chest collapsed. Paul whispered, Paul, don't run. It senses panic, like sharks sense blood. But my fear wasn't listening to logic. The creature took one step. The floor hissed under its weight, as if the tile scorched. Then another. Paul raised the steel ringer. Paul, back up, Noah. If it picks one of us, I want it to be the old bastard, not the kid. Me. No, we're leaving together. I stepped beside him, shoulder to shoulder. The creature tilted its head, studying us. Then, it smiled, not with teeth, with the cracking of glass along the shape of a mouth. Creature, one drink is all it takes. It reached toward me, and I did the one thing Paul told me not to do. I panicked. I grabbed the fire door bar and slammed the emergency exit open. A deafening alarm blared, and the cold night air rushed inside. The creature recoiled, like the outside air heard it. Paul grabbed my arm. Paul, out, now. We bolted through the door, but as I crossed the threshold, I heard the bottles inside the stockroom begin exploding one after another. Reinforcements. The creature wasn't alone anymore, and as the door swung closed behind us, I heard footsteps of more than one following. I never believed something as harmless as a Coca-Cola bottle could destroy a life, let alone mine. But everything changed on a cold October night in Crestline Springs, Colorado. A small mountain town where everyone knew everyone and rumors traveled faster than the wind that cut through the pines. My name is Ethan Ward, 27 years old, working the graveyard shift at a local gas station, Pioneerage Fuel and Mart, a roadside stop right off Highway 74. I wasn't proud of the job, but it paid enough to keep my studio apartment warm and my student loans from suffocating me entirely. The thing is, nights at Pine Ridge were usually dead. A couple truckers, maybe a drunk teen, once in a while, a lost tourist who regretted taking the scenic route in the dark. But 3 weeks ago, something new started happening. People began returning Coca-Cola bottles, not because they were expired, not because they tasted bad, but because something inside the bottles moved. I thought it was a joke, kids messing around. Then I opened one bottle and saw it myself, a dark, shifting shadow swirling inside, almost like smoke but heavier, thicker. At the time, I shrugged it off as a manufacturing issue. That was my first mistake. The night everything changed, it was 11:47 p.m. I was restocking the refrigerated shelves, humming under my breath to fight the silence. The Coke section was nearly empty again. Another wave of people had returned them earlier, claiming the liquid looked wrong. I bent down to slide a crate into the lower rack, and that's when the motion sensor bell at the door chimed. Ding. I looked up. A man walked in, tall, pale, with a thick black coat that seemed too heavy for fall weather. His face was blank, his expression unreadable. But what struck me most was what he held. A single Coca-Cola bottle. He walked straight to the counter without looking at anything else. "Can I help you, sir?" I asked, stepping behind the register. He placed the bottle down gently as though it was fragile. "Don't drink it," he said in a low, growly voice. "I wasn't going to," he leaned in. "You need to stop selling them." I frowned. "Sir, I just work here. I can't really." He didn't let me finish. His eyes widened, pupils dilating unnaturally. "They're waking up." Before I could respond, he turned and walked out. No explanation, no payment, no return request, just the bottle sitting cold on the counter. Something was swirling inside. It wasn't carbonation. The movement was wrong, too deliberate, almost like something alive was trying to rise to the surface, but couldn't. I swallowed hard and lifted the bottle into the light. The liquid looked normal at first, dark brown and glossy under the fluorescent bulbs, but then from the bottom, a thin shadow slipped upward like a tendril impressed against the plastic. I dropped the bottle. It hit the countertop but didn't crack. Instead, the liquid inside rippled, forming a shape, something like an open mouth. I stepped back, pulse hammering. What the hell is this? At that moment, my sea orker Maya Thompson arrived for her shift. She was 24, bright, sarcastic, and way too energetic for midnight. "You look like you just saw a corpse," she joked. "I might have," I muttered, pointing at the bottle. She picked it up before I could stop her. "Huh? Looks normal to me." "No, wait." Before I could explain, she twisted the cap open. A sharp hiss escaped longer and deeper than any soda fizz I'd ever heard. Then the lights flickered, not once, not twice. They stayed flickering like something was feeding off the electricity. "Ethan," Maya whispered, stepping closer to me. The shadow in the bottle began rising, slow, then suddenly fast. I grabbed Mia's wrist and pulled her back. Too late. The shadow shot out, thin, smoky, serpent-like, and disappeared under the shelves. Maya screamed. I didn't blame her because the shadow wasn't just gone. It was moving. We heard scratching, sharp, frantic, circling us. "Turn on the lights," Maya shouted. "They're already on," I snapped. But the flickering persisted, stretching shadows across the aisles in long, distorted streaks that didn't match our movements. Then came a whisper, a soft, cold breath against the back of my neck. "Thirsty?" I froze. "Maya, did you hear?" Before I finished, a Coca-Cola bottle fell off the top shelf from the other aisle. Clack, then another, clack. Then a whole row tipped over like someone dragged a hand across them. Maya clutched my arm. "Ethan, something's in here." "No, it's not in here." My throat tightened. "It's inside the Coke." A sudden loud bang hit the wall behind the refrigerators. The compressors groaned. The glass doors fogged instantly, as if a winter storm had erupted inside them. Then slowly something formed in the frost, a handprint, then another, then a long twisted face. Maya grabbed her phone, but it shut off instantly. Battery full but dead as a corpse. Mine followed seconds later. The air grew colder enough to sting our skin. Then from the back storage room, we heard the unmistakable clink of glass bottles being moved. I didn't want to look. Maya did. She peeked through the doorway and gasped. "Ethan, the boxes. They're opening on their own." I stepped beside her. She was right. Dozens of Coca-Cola crates were trembling. One by one, their caps twisted open, not by force, but by something inside pushing upward. Fizzy hisses filled the air. Every bottle was awakening. "We need to get out now," I yelled. But before we could run, the bottles erupted simultaneously. Thick black shadows shooting out like smoke bombs. The entire store filled with swirling darkness, shapes writhing and twisting together as if forming a single living mass. Then a screech tore through the building, high-pitched, metallic, almost like the shriek of bending steel. The shadows merged, connected, formed legs, arms, a spine made of flickering darkness, and finally a face, not human, not animal, a hollow open void. It took one step toward us, and the floor vibrated. "Run!" Maya screamed. We bolted toward the exit, but the automatic doors didn't open. They were locked, or worse, being held shut by something. The shadow creature surged forward, its limbs stretching unnaturally long, grabbing the shelves, pulling itself toward us like a crawling nightmare. I threw my shoulder into the glass door. Bam! It didn't budge. "Ethan, we're trapped," Maya cried. The creature was inches away now. Its breath was cold, sweet, sugary, like rotting syrup. Then the door behind the counter slammed open. The pale man from earlier stepped out holding something, a full crate of Coca-Cola bottles. "Get down," he shouted. We dropped instantly. He tossed the crate toward the creature. The bottle shattered on impact, but instead of shadows escaping, the creature recoiled. The liquid hissed against its body like acid. It screamed, then dissolved into a black mist. The room fell silent. The lights stopped flickering. Maya and I gasped for air as the pale man approached us. "You need to listen carefully," he said. "What was that thing?" Maya whispered. The man stared at the shattered bottles, his voice low. "They're not drinks anymore." His eyes lifted slowly. "They're containers." We followed him outside where his old pickup truck sat idling. Inside the bed were dozens, maybe hundreds of Coca-Cola bottles filled with shifting shadows. He wasn't a crazy stranger. He was collecting them. "Why?" I asked. He lit a cigarette with shaking hands. "Because if I don't, they spread." "What are they?" Something old, he said, eyes on the horizon. Something that feeds on sugar. Something that got mixed into a shipment. Maybe during transport, maybe earlier. I don't know. Why didn't you tell someone? The police? The company? Maya demanded. Because nobody believes what they can't understand. He glanced at us. You two saw what happened in there. I nodded weakly. He opened the passenger door of his truck. You can help me, or you can pretend none of this ever happened and wait for the next bottle to open itself. Maya looked at me. Ethan. But before I could answer, a soft hiss filled the air. We all turned inside the store. The Coca-Cola refrigerator lit up again. Every remaining bottle inside began to shake. Caps turned. Shadows swirled. The pale man whispered, "It's too late." The glass doors of the refrigerator burst outward as dozens of dark tendrils whipped into the air. Maya screamed and sprinted toward the parking lot. I grabbed her hand and pulled her behind a truck, just as the shadows crawled out of the shattered doors like liquid smoke. The pale man climbed into his truck. "Get in the back," he yelled. We didn't think. We just obeyed. As soon as we jumped in, he slammed the gas. The shadows chased the truck, stretching across the asphalt like tar, crawling over each other, growing larger with every Coke bottle they consumed. "They're multiplying," Mia yelled over the roar of the engine. "No," the man growled, gripping the wheel. "They're forming." In the rear-view mirror, a massive shape was rising from the ground. A towering figure made of thousands of liquid shadows, forming a monstrous silhouette that loomed over the gas station. The lights around the station blew out. The power grid cut across the entire block. Only the moonlight illuminated the creature. It opened a gaping void-like mouth, and the sound it made wasn't a roar. It was fizzing like a Coke bottle shaken too hard. We sped down Highway 74, the creature slowly shrinking in the distance as it lost access to more bottles. But the pale man didn't relax. "This isn't over," he said. "There are millions of bottles out there, millions of containers. What do we do?" I asked. He exhaled shakily. "We find them before they open." "And if they already opened," Mia whispered. He stared straight ahead. "Then we hope the world is ready." The truck disappeared into the darkness. Behind us, the gas station collapsed in on itself, consumed by a whirl of shadows that finally hissed into silence. But I knew deep down this wasn't ending. Every vending machine, every grocery store, every fridge filled with Coca-Cola bottles, filled with something else. Something waiting, something thirsty, something that would eventually reach someone who didn't listen to warnings. And when they opened that bottle, the world would know the truth. My name is Evan Mercer, and until last summer, I lived a quiet life in Mon, Georgia, working the night shift at a small gas station off Interstate 75. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid my rent, and the solitude suited me. I didn't talk much, didn't party, didn't make enemies. I was just a guy stacking shelves and selling snacks to truckers at 2 a.m. But everything changed the night I opened that Coca-Cola bottle. It was around 1:14 a.m., the parking lot empty except for a few bugs dancing around the street lights. I was restocking the fridge, arranging soda bottles by brand like always. Then I saw it. One Coca-Cola bottle didn't match the others. The label was the same red, same logo, but the inside liquid looked darker, thicker, almost like syrup mixed with tar. And when I picked it up, the bottle felt colder than ice, painfully cold, like holding dry ice with bare hands. I flinched and dropped it into the cart. What the hell? I checked the timestamp on the pallet. Delivered at 12:03 a.m. Only I knew no delivery truck had come. I would have heard it, signed for it, logged it. This bottle came from nowhere. I called my friend Lily, who worked mornings. "You inventing again this early?" She joked sleepily. "No," I whispered. "Something's wrong with one of the Coke bottles. You're calling me at 1 o'clock in the morning for a soda problem." "It's not soda," I said. "The liquid is black and freezing." She paused. "Evan, don't open it. Just leave it on the counter. I'll check it in the morning. I wanted to do exactly that, but the bottle, it pulsed. I swear to God, it pulsed like a heartbeat. I put it on the counter, but every time I looked at it, I felt a weird pressure behind my eyes, like it was staring back. Just then, the doorbell chimed. A customer walked in. An old man, pale, tall, wearing a gray raincoat despite the clear sky. He didn't browse. He went straight to the counter and pointed at the bottle. "That one," he rasped. "I need that bottle." His voice sounded like someone dragging metal. "Sir, I haven't scanned it." "Give it to me," he demanded, fists shaking. Something about him terrified me, not because he looked dangerous, but because he looked scared. He kept glancing at the bottle like it was alive. "Please," he whispered, "you don't know what's inside." Before I could react, the bottle suddenly cracked, releasing a soft hiss. The old man stepped back in horror. It woke up. The bottle cap burst off, spinning across the floor like a coin. A thick vapor seeped out, black and oily, spilling over the counter like smoke underwater. I couldn't move, couldn't think. The old man screamed, "Don't breathe it." But it was too late. The black vapor wrapped around my hand like a glove, then crawled up my arm. It was cold at first, freezing, then burning hot. The old man ran toward the door, but slammed into something invisible midair, hitting the ground. The store lights flickered. The vapor entered my skin. Suddenly, I heard hundreds of whispers. Not around me, inside me. Drink, finish, complete. My knees buckled. The bottle, now empty, rolled toward me. The old man crawled away. "You activated it?" he wheezed. "It marks the nearest living host. Once opened. Marks for what? For replacement?" He forced himself up. "There is a Coca-Cola plant in Valdosta," he said, still shaking. "One that shut down quietly years ago. People said it was financial issues." He looked straight into my eyes. "But the real reason? Disappearances. Not random employees working the night bottling lines. Vanished. Always during the Coke syrup cycle," he continued. "A contamination report leaked. Something got into the mixture. Something not from this world." "What does that have to do with this bottle?" I croaked as my arm throbbed. "The substance needs a host. It imitates whatever it absorbs." Entire workers were replaced and walked out looking normal until they didn't. My fingers numbed. "You mean something inside this bottle wants to become me?" The old man nodded slowly. "I escaped that plant years ago. But the marked bottles always come back. They're delivered to the last surviving witness." He stared at me with hollow eyes. "Me?" The whispers grew louder. "You opened it. You invited us. Complete the drink." I ran to the bathroom, clutching my arm. My veins were turning black like ink spreading through water. "Evan," the old man shouted, "listen to me. If the transformation finishes, you won't be you, and the thing wearing your face will leave this store. It'll find others." I splashed water on my face, but the reflection made my stomach drop. My eyes were darkening. Not black, empty. Suddenly my reflection smiled, but I didn't. "Stop," I begged. Behind me, the stall door creaked open on its own. The fluorescent lights buzzed violently as the whispers became one single voice. "Let me out." I stumbled back to the counter. The old man stood there sweating, trembling. He was holding a small metal cylinder. When he opened it, a faint red glow escaped. "This is the only thing that slows it," he said. "A thermal disruptor. It freezes the organism inside you. But earlier you said it was freezing. It mimics sensations. It doesn't freeze you. It freezes it." He pointed the device at my arm. "This is going to hurt." Before I could protest, he pressed the cold metal to my skin. I screamed. Black tendrils shot out of my pores like worms retreating from light. My body convulsed and I hit the floor. The old man yelled, "Fight it! You have about 60 seconds until it adapts to the temperature." The whispers turned into shrieking. My vision blurred. "I can't. You have to," he shouted, "or everything you are will be overwritten." My mind split between two voices. Mine and the thing's. The old man knelt beside me. I've seen what happens when it wins. It can mimic your voice, your memories, your behavior. It walks out the door and no one suspects anything. My heartbeat slowed. The black veins reached my neck. The creature inside me whispered, "Let me finish, and I'll let you watch through your own eyes as I live your life." I grabbed onto the shelf to stay conscious. "Tell me what to do," I gasped. The old man hesitated, then said the words I didn't want to hear. "You have to destroy the host." My body? Yes. My chest tightened. "But I'll die." He bowed his head. "I'm sorry, son, but if you don't, dozens more will." The lights flickered. The thing inside me laughed. "He's lying. He wants the host for himself." I growled in pain. I had 60 seconds to decide whether to save myself or everyone else. The old man slid a lighter toward me, the cheap gas station kind. "You open the bottle over a flammable counter soaked in cleaning fluid," he said. "Ignite it. Burn it before it completes." My hands shook violently. The creature whispered, "If you die alone. If you let me live, we live together." I looked at the old man. He looked terrified but also relieved. "Please, Evan," he said, "end this. End what started in that plant." My arm curled unnaturally as the creature moved beneath my skin. I flicked the lighter. The flame popped to life. The creature screeched. The old man stumbled backward. I pressed the lighter to the counter. A fireball erupted around me, engulfing everything. I felt my skin burn. Felt the creature thrashing inside. Heard both our screams mixing together. And then silence. I woke up in a hospital. 2 days later, alive barely. A fire inspector told me the store went up too fast for anyone to escape except me. The old man was gone, never found. No remains, no traces. But when they brought me my burnt belongings, something chilled my blood. Inside the plastic bag was a bottle cap. The same cap from the Coca-Cola bottle, blackened, scarred, but intact. At the bottom was a stamped message. "Try again." I'm writing this because the doctors say the dark veins under my skin are just burn scarring, but I know better. At night, I still hear whispers. I don't know how long I have before the thing inside me wakes up again. And if it does, someone else will find a strange Coca-Cola bottle waiting for them, exactly like I did. I never thought a simple bottle of Coca-Cola would ruin my life. My name is Ethan Marlowe, a 27-year-old warehouse handler from Benton Ridge, Ohio, a small, quiet town where nothing ever happens. I grew up here, left for college in Columbus, dropped out, then returned because home felt safer, familiar, predictable. It wasn't. Back in 2023, I got hired at a Coca-Cola distribution center just outside town. A huge red and white warehouse you could spot from half a mile away. The job was easy. Unload incoming trucks, stack cases, check codes, go home. No stress, no drama. Until the night shift started. Until that bottle showed up. It was November 12th. A windstorm was shaking the metal door so hard that the walls hummed. Most workers had already left early. Only me, my supervisor, Rick Holston, and the janitor, Tommy Hales, were inside. At around 11:40 p.m., I found a pallet with a broken seal. The shrink wrap was torn like someone jammed their hand into the middle of the stack. Coke bottles were scattered everywhere as if something exploded inside. But one bottle was different. At first, I didn't notice it. It looked old, dusty. The label faded. The cap rusted around the edges like it had been submerged in water. But the weird thing, it was cold. Ice cold. Even though the warehouse was warm that night, the manufacturing code printed on the neck read 07-04-199, 8-line 17-B303 AM. Impossible. Coca-Cola distribution never keeps anything older than 2 months. I radioed Rick. "Hey, I got something weird on pallet 22. He walked over, annoyed. What now? I handed him the bottle. He frowned, rubbing his thumb over the dusty glass. Where the hell did this come from? Before I could answer, the cold bottle grew colder. Frost spread across the label. We both stared at it. Then Rick whispered, "Do you hear that?" At first I thought it was the wind, but no. This was coming from the bottle, a faint tapping from the inside. Rick set it down immediately. "Screw this, we're reporting it to inventory control in the morning." But I picked it up again because the tapping stopped and something new appeared inside the bottle. Tiny bubbles rising from nothing. No fizz, no sound, just slow, unnatural movement. Like whatever was inside wasn't carbon dioxide at all. I brought the bottle closer to my ear. That was my first mistake. I swear on my life, I heard a voice, a tiny, breathy whisper, "Let me out." I dropped the bottle so hard it rolled across the concrete floor but didn't break. Rick shouted, "Enough, lock it in the defect cabinet." I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing that whisper in my head. I told myself it was the storm, the metal doors, stress, anything but what I knew I heard. The next day at work, the defect cabinet was open and the bottle was gone. Rick accused Tommy, the janitor. Poor guy had worked there 20 years and barely spoke. "I didn't touch nothing," he kept repeating, but his hands were trembling and he wouldn't look at the empty cabinet. That night, when I clocked out and walked into the parking lot, I saw it sitting on the hood of my pickup. The same bottle, cold, wet with frost, label older than me. I didn't touch it. I backed away slowly, but as soon as I reached the driver's side door, the bottle slid on its own toward the windshield edge like something inside shifted its weight. My breath froze in my throat. Suddenly my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Drink it." I dropped my phone and ran back inside the warehouse. Rick was still in the main office typing up reports. I burst in, panting, the bottle's outside on my truck. Someone texted me to drink it. He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Ethan, enough. It's probably a prank. We've got teenagers breaking in all the time." "No," I insisted. "This bottle, there's something inside it." Rick exhaled slowly. "Then let's both go look." We stepped into the lot together. My truck hood was empty. The bottle was gone. Rick patted my shoulder. "See, someone's messing with you." But as we turned back toward the warehouse, something rolled across the ground and bumped gently into my boot. The bottle. It had rolled from behind a concrete pillar where no incline existed. Rick swore under his breath. "Okay, that's not normal." He bent down and finally did what neither of us had dared to do. Held the bottle against the beam of his phone flashlight. That's when we saw it clearly. A dark, thin shadow inside the bottle, swirling like smoke trapped in liquid. Then two faint white specks appeared inside the shadow. Eyes small, pale, watching us from inside a Coca-Cola bottle. Rick's face drained of color. "Put that thing in my truck. We're taking it to the police." But when he tried to grab the bottle, it stuck to the ground like the concrete had melted around it. Rick pulled harder. Then the bottle pulsed. One sharp, jerking movement and a deep, vibrating sound echoed inside it, low enough to shake our bones. Rick recoiled, shouting, "No, no, 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 screw this. Leave it." We ran back into the warehouse and locked the doors. We didn't know Tommy had seen everything from the loading dock. We didn't know it wanted him next. I arrived at work the next morning and immediately sensed something was wrong. Police cars were parked at the entrance. Yellow tape. Officers talking quietly. Inside, employees gathered near the break room, pale and shaking. Then I saw Tommy's mop bucket lying on its side. The entire floor around it sticky with dark syrup-colored liquid. Not blood Coca-Cola. Detective Harper Maddox approached us. "There was an incident last night. We found the janitor unconscious on the loading dock. He's alive but not responsive." Rick whispered, Was there a bottle near him? Harper frowned. Bottle? No. Why would that matter? Because sitting on a shelf directly behind the detective, almost placed carefully, was the same bottle, frosty, waiting. But only me and Rick noticed it. Harper said Tommy was found with his mouth stained dark, as if he'd swallowed something thick. But toxicology found no poison, no alcohol, no drugs, just abnormal concentrations of carbon dioxide in his throat and lungs. He must have choked, Harper said. I knew he didn't. Tommy had inhaled something that used the Coke as a host. Rick tried to leave early, but Harper stopped him. I'll need both of you for questioning later. As soon as we were alone, I whispered, we need to get rid of it. Rick nodded. Tonight after closing, but the bottle wasn't going to wait. At 6 p.m., when most workers left, the bottle slid off the shelf and shattered on the floor. But the Coke didn't spread. Instead, it rose like smoke underwater, forming a tall, creeping shadow with no face, just white glowing specks where eyes should be. Rick and I froze. The shadow twitched, tilted its head, and whispered, "Thirsty?" We ran to the forklift area. Rick grabbed a metal pipe. I snatched a fire extinguisher. But what were we going to do? Fight a shadow? The thing drifted after us. Slow but deliberate. Every flicker of the warehouse lights made it appear closer, as if darkness was its doorway. When the emergency lights flicked red, just for a second, it was suddenly right behind me. Rick tackled me out of the way. The shadow wrapped around him like smoke, grabbing a branch. He screamed as his body arched unnaturally, ribs popping under the pressure. I swung the fire extinguisher wildly through the cloud. Nothing. It didn't even feel resistance. Rick's scream turned into a choking gurgle, and suddenly the shadow poured itself into his mouth like liquid smoke. His body convulsed, then went still. I crawled backward, breath shaken. Rick, he stood up slowly, too slowly, his head lifted with a crack in his neck, eyes glowing faintly white. "Thirsty," he whispered. That wasn't Rick's voice, he charged. I ducked behind a pallet of canned Dr. Pepper. His fist slammed through cardboard and metal like paper. I sprinted behind the soda racks. I had one idea. One insane, desperate idea. Every Coke bottle has one thing in common: pressure. If I could trap him, trap it back inside a container. I grabbed an empty industrial carbonation canister from a nearby station. My hands shook as I twisted the valve open, releasing gas. Rick, or whatever was controlling him, charged toward me, flickering between shadow and flesh. I held the nozzle towards him and prayed it would work. When the blast of pressurized CO2 hit his chest, the shadow inside his body rippled violently, shrieking through his mouth in a chorus of distorted whispers. The shadow tore out of Rick's body and recoiled backward like it was being vacuumed. Rick collapsed. The shadow shrank, pulling toward the open canister valve, then disappeared inside. The canister hummed, cold, silent containment. But Rick wasn't breathing, and Detective Harper had seen everything through the warehouse window. When the police stormed in, weapons drawn, I raised my hands immediately. Rick was wheezing on the ground, barely alive. The canister beside me was vibrating faintly, but I kept my hand over the valve. If they opened it, the thing would escape. Harper yelled, "Step away from the equipment." "No," I shouted. "You don't understand." Officers tackled me, pinning my face against the concrete. "Check the canister," Harper ordered. I screamed, "Don't touch it." But they didn't listen. An officer turned the valve. Just a quarter inch, just enough. A dark mist burst out and shot across the ceiling like spilled ink in water. The lights flickered violently. Everyone froze. Then the mist dropped straight onto Officer Kane's back. He convulsed once, twice, then stood up slowly, head twitching. White glowing specks appeared under his eyelids. Harper stepped back. "Kane, you all right?" He turned toward her, opening his mouth. The shadow spoke, using his voice. I said, "Let me out." Panic erupted. Officers fired, the bullets passing through Kane's body harmlessly, ripping through flesh, but doing nothing to the entity. Inside, The shadow spilled out of him and leapt toward the ceiling rafters, darting between beams like a spider made of smoke. I used the chaos to crawl to Rick, pulling him behind a metal crate. His voice was faint. "Ethan, don't let it use anyone else. It wants a host," I said. "It needs a body." "No," Rick whispered. "It wants more than that. Whatever's in Coke, whatever formula they've kept secret all these years. It's not normal, kid." And that terrified me more than anything. Harper shouted, "Everyone out now!" But before we could move, the shadow swept across the rafters and dropped into the center of the room, forming a tall humanoid shape. It raised one long liquid arm, and every unopened Coca-Cola bottle in the warehouse began shaking violently. Thousands of them, all at once. Caps exploded off like gunshots. Screaming filled the air, not from people, but from the bottles, from what was inside them. I grabbed Harper's arm. "We need to shut down the power now." She didn't believe me, but she had no other plan. We sprinted toward the maintenance room. Behind us, officers were being slammed into shelves, dragged by invisible force, or swallowed by fog that bubbled like boiling syrup. Every bottle that burst released another faint shadow, smaller, weaker versions of the large one, like offspring or fragments. Harper and I barricaded the maintenance room door as shadows clawed from the other side like angry insects. "Where's the power shut off?" she shouted. "There?" I pointed at the red handle. Before she could pull it, a small shadow seeped through the ventilation grate and slithered across the wall like spilled ink. Harper panicked, pulling out her taser. She fired. The electricity hit the shadow and it shrieked, recoiling violently. Electricity. That gave me an idea. I grabbed the emergency panel wires and tore them free, sparks snapping across my gloves. Then I pressed the sparking ends against the door seam. Shadows screamed as they touched the electricity. The large shadow outside thrashed, slamming the door until hinges bent. Harper yelled, "We can't hold it." "Then we don't," I said. I flipped the breakers. All of them. The entire warehouse went dark. Every buzzing overhead light died. Every emergency bulb flicked out. And just for a moment, silence. Then a howl. A deep, vibrating howl like a dying engine. Without electricity, the warehouse became pitch black, except for the glowing white eyes of dozens, maybe hundreds, of small shadows crawling across the floor, and one massive pair of eyes hovering above them. The big one, the original. It whispered, "Thirsty." Then it lunged. We ran blindly down the pitch-black corridor, only guided by the faint emergency exit signs. The shadows slithered behind us, gaining speed. Harper tripped on a pallet jack and screamed. I grabbed her and dragged her back up. "Come on." But the large shadow surged forward, forming sharp limbs like blades of smoke. We ducked into the forklift station and climbed into the biggest forklift available. No keys. I panicked until Harper pointed at a small black box attached to the ignition. Warehouse uses remote starters. She slammed her fist on the switch panel. The forklift roared to life. As the shadow charged, I floored the accelerator. We drove straight into the giant black mass. The impact scattered it like smoke blown apart by wind, but it immediately started reforming. "Head to the loading docks," Harper shouted. We turned the forklift toward the giant steel exit doors. Shadows clung to the forklift sides, leaving cold burn marks on the metal. The big shadow rose above us, ready to strike. Then we smashed through the loading dock door at full speed. Cold night air hit us like a tidal wave. Shadows hissed and recoiled as if the outside air weakened them. The biggest one screeched. Harper gasped. "Ethan, the headlights." I flicked them on. High beams blasted through the fog and every shadow froze. Light. They hated light. The giant shadow writhed like its skin was burning. I grabbed a long steel pole from the forklift rack. "Keep the lights on it." Harper angled the forklift directly toward the creature. I ran forward and drove the pole through the thickest part of the shadow's chest. It let out a guttural metallic howl, the sound of 100 bottle caps twisting at once. The shadow peeled apart like burning paper, dissolving into the night air. The smaller shadows evaporated with it. In seconds, everything was quiet. The warehouse lights flickered weakly back on behind us. Harper lowered her taser. "Ethan, what the hell was that?" I stared at the empty air, where the shadow had dissolved. "I think," I said quietly, "someone bottled something they never should have." The warehouse shut down permanently. Coca-Cola executives arrived the next morning with lawyers and silence. They blamed a chemical leak. They claimed Rick and the officers had hallucinated. They ordered the building demolished, but before it was torn down, one thing was missing. The original bottle, the one with the 1998 code, the one that started everything. Harper transferred to a different state after the incident. Rick survived, but refused to talk about what he saw. Tommy never woke up. His body just stopped. As for me, I quit my job, moved to Indiana, and tried to forget. But last week, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside was a single glass bottle, cold, dusty, label faded, cap rusted. The manufacturing code read 12-04-2025, line 17, B303 AM. Today's date. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Drink it. I dropped the bottle immediately. It didn't break. It rolled slowly toward my feet. And from inside, a tiny voice whispered, "Still thirsty."